Live to see it, friends, and welcome to The World Transformed. This program is your guide to an astounding future that lies ahead, one that will be here sooner than you think, and one that you have an important role to play in bringing about. So, when does this astounding future begin? Well, today is the day. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-blogger, co-futurist, and co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey Phil, how are you?
Well, I'm super fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, doing great.
All right. Well, excited about another week of World Transformed here. How about you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm loving this. This 3 times a week. It's in shorter little bursts. It works for me. I hope the viewers and listeners like it as well. So
Well, as we were putting together our ideas for this week, it occurred to me that I think we're actually, obviously, that should have been obvious to begin with, but it didn't occur to me. We're getting to more ideas than we did before because,
oh yeah,
it's 3 shows in a week, and so we're hitting on more ideas than we would have. Typically, any of the 3 shows we do this week would have been the full hour for a previous week, or maybe we would have gotten a half of another one of them in, but certainly not all three of these very distinct shows that we're doing this week. So I feel pretty good about that, and pretty
hey, if it
excited
works
about it.
for my attention span, it might be that it's better for others as well. So
And our friends from the Blog Talk Radio chat room, who always had something interesting in addition to what we were talking about to talk about. So there's just no end of interesting topics, but.
yeah, that's right.
One really interesting topic in the world is wearable computers, and our program this evening is called the Age of Wearable Computers, taking a little, borrowing a little language there from the Age of Spiritual Machines
I
from
picked
Ray
up on
Kurzweil.
that. One of our big heroes, right, Phil?
Absolutely, and we're
Ray
living
Kurzweil.
we're living now. I should have said the Age of Wearable Machines. Actually, would have been even more on the nose there. We are living in that age. We're living in the very beginning of that age, I think, and people are attaching computer hardware to their persons. They are wearing them in a variety of ways, and we're going to look at some of the more obvious examples initially, and then we're going to take a look at some of the stuff that is coming. But would you agree, Stephen, that this is indeed the age of wearable machines? Are we living in the age of wearable computers, or has it even started, in your opinion?
I think it's fair to say that it started about the time that we all started carrying smartphones.
Okay.
Um,
If you call that
that,
wearing, and that's
yeah,
close,
and
yeah.
I would guess that probably many in the industry would not consider a smartphone a wearable. They just that they're saying okay, they're smartphones, and then after smartphones, we're going to wear them in some fashion differently than carrying them around.
Right.
But to me, the huge jump was from a computer that you had to, sit down at a desk and work on, to a computer that's with you always, which is what a smartphone is. And so, I would say that is really kind of the beginning of it. And of course, then after that, we're gonna see some other options. And I guess that's really more of what the program will be about tonight. Not smartphones, but I'm saying that they sort of count. They sort of count.
They sort of count. The purist would say that the beginning of the era maybe started with the digital watch, or maybe it began with the Bluetooth receiver that people started putting on their heads, because that's when you're really attaching something to your head. And what we're going to look at tonight are things that people are attaching to their heads, or elsewhere on their bodies. And we'll start off by talking about a couple that literally people attach to their face, and one of them is so thoroughly attached to your face it even goes by the nickname. Have you heard this? The face hugger. One of the nicknames that people have for the Oculus Rift. This is a virtual reality gaming interface that is getting a lot of attention lately. They've come out with a new prototype version. There's talk that there's going to be a release of this, a general availability commercial release of this item sometime in 2014. I don't think that's been officially announced yet. At least last I looked, it has not. But rumor has it that sometime this year we'll be able to get it, that the price point is going to be somewhere in the $400 to $500 range, and I think this thing is going to be extremely hot. Even though, if you look at the picture that we're showing in the slideshow on Blog Talk Radio, or at the opening credits of this program on YouTube, you've really got a computer stuck to your face when you're wearing the Oculus Rift, don't you?
Yeah. This is not something you wear around. I mean, this is something
True.
that you would have, in your home, more than likely. I suppose that a few jobs might benefit from the someone wearing an Oculus Rift, but mostly this is for play, I would think. It's literally a screen that fills up your world when you put it on your face, and the idea is to make you feel like you're there, wherever there is. And yeah, it's virtual reality. It's not augmented reality. It's virtual reality. You're in some completely different place, which means you can't be walking around that much, probably not unless you're in the middle of a big open gym or something, where it's safe to just walk in any direction.
Right, where
Well,
you can where you can move around in the
right.
virtual space that you're occupying, and of
Probably by
course in
way of
there you're not wearing an Oculus Rift, so everything's
right,
fine.
right.
Yeah.
Well, what's going to happen is you're going to turn and look in various directions, but when it's time to walk and move around in the virtual reality, you're probably going to do something akin to a joystick, because walking around in the real world, to simulate walking in the Oculus Rift, unless you've got an all direction treadmill, which is a possibility. That
Right,
technology is in the works,
right.
that'd be pretty great if you had an all
Oh yeah.
direction treadmill. But most of us won't, at least at first, and so we'll probably be moving around by way of joystick in the virtual world as we turn with our heads with the
Yeah,
Oculus stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, somehow or other you'll move around in there. Probably won't be walking literally at first, unless you got a really
yeah,
big room or, like you said, some kind of totally awesome treadmill. But you'll be doing something to move around, and you'll be occupying that space. And the interesting thing about virtual reality is you might not even be you in there. You might be a big blue Wookiee or something in there walking around. You almost certainly won't have a big computer on your face because you're in a completely different space, as
that's right.
distinct from Google Glass, which is a piece of hardware that you wear around out into the world. Because it
Yeah,
augments, it enhances the reality we're in rather than replacing the reality we're in. So,
this is maybe a little too meta, but I think the game that I would most want to play would be Jim Cameron's Avatar.
exactly, yeah.
I mean, you are. Never mind. Never mind. You're logged in. You're playing it just as if you were.
You get to become the big giant blue guy, and
Yeah,
you go to
yeah,
town. Yeah,
that's right.
makes sense to me. Um, but you wouldn't want to walk around with anything remotely looking. If there was an augmented reality interface that looked like Oculus Rift,
It wouldn't work.
it would not catch on, right?
No, no, no
I mean,
way.
as it is, when you compare those two devices, compare Google Glass and Oculus Rift. Look at those two devices, and look how heavy and overbearing and complete one is, and how light, deliberately light, and unobtrusive as possible the other is, and yet is still accused of being kind of dorky and inappropriate.
Yeah,
You see the huge difference between virtual reality and augmented reality, between something that's just putting you into a completely different world so you don't have to worry about what you look like in this world, and something that you've got to take with you into the world because it's bringing a new experience of the world that we're in to you as you use it. Two completely different sets of criteria for how a wearable computer needs to look, how it needs to feel, all those kinds of things.
I would.
The way I describe it is this: on a dork scale, right? The Oculus Rift, okay, the Google Glass, we'll say is like a 2 or a 3, right? You could get a lot dorkier than a Google Glass. Oculus Rift, 10 plus, right? It's off
Well,
the
here's
chart.
here's the thing though. Nobody cares if they look like a dork in the privacy of their own home. So
By and
really,
large, by and
and,
large,
yeah, by and large,
yeah.
um, unless they really have, I don't know, self-image issues or something. But if so, really, in a way, Oculus Rift zero, because who cares? You're there all by yourself presumably,
Right,
or with someone else who doesn't care.
right.
And then with the Google Glass, you're wearing that out in the public, so there is a dork factor with that. You know, uh, I don't know. I don't know. I think I would put a little more dork factor on Google Glass. I would say of the two technologies, uh, I think that Oculus Rift will catch on quicker, but it's the less important technology than the Google Glass augmented
Ah,
reality type thing.
aha.
It's there, it's less important because I think by and large people are going to use the Oculus Rift for playtime. There's of one sort or another. Again, there are some jobs I could imagine would benefit from virtual reality, but by and large, the more important thing is a computer that goes with us and is able to assist us in the real world. And that is actually the more important technology, I would think. But it's going to take longer to get it right because it's got to look good. And so, at any rate, it's going to be interesting to watch both come of age.
Absolutely. I'm not going to debate which is more important. I think there's kind of an apples versus oranges things going on. I think
True.
in terms of which one are people going to use for serious versus entertainment purposes, you're right. Google Glass is definitely it. Which one maybe has the bigger, longer term implications? That's a little harder to say because they both there's something really important going on with the Oculus Rift in terms of the first real step towards full immersion. It's not full immersion virtual reality by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a very immersive experience, and some would say it's full immersion visual virtual reality anyway, or at least it's moving us in that direction. So that's a huge step forward, a huge technological leap used for entertainment. And I don't want to get into what's more important, entertainment or real life. We'll let the market decide that for the time being. But I want to come back to the idea of, does it matter what they look like? Let's start with the one we can agree on. It definitely matters what Google Glass looks like.
Yeah.
The image that you portray out in public when you're wearing Google Glass is going to have an impact on your life out in public. So it's just like anything else you put on your body. It has an impact for good or for ill. You think you look cool in it, and everybody's going to admire you. Awesome. You're afraid you look dorky in it, and you feel self-conscious. That's a problem. Or other people look at it and decide certain things about you.
Right.
Case in point, we've got this wonderful story. Google Glass user questioned by Homeland Security in Ohio theater for suspected piracy. Now, there is so much messed up about that headline that I don't even know where to start. If this were a different show, we would talk about the fact that WTF is Homeland Security doing investigating computer piracy, all right? But we have to just push that aside, Stephen, because it's a 30-minute show. So we'll just let that absurdity stand, okay? We'll let it go.
Can I just say this, guys? Terrorists.
Yeah, hey, try that. Try the terrorist thing. Yeah, see if you can do some work there. But now let's
Okay, the poor guy, he's drug out of the theater.
Right.
Because they're assuming he's videoing with Google Glass. And that's probably a pretty safe assumption that he was. It's likely. If I see somebody with Google Glass watching a movie, I'm going to think to myself, yeah, they're probably recording. And so they pull him out, and well, lo and behold, he had prescription lenses put into his Google Glass, which is exactly what I would have to do if I were to have that product. And he doesn't even think about it anymore. He goes everywhere with wearing this, and and so he happened to have the camera off. They questioned him for an hour, which is crazy. Why don't you just take a look at his glasses and see if he's recording? He could be done with that in 5 minutes, but no, they spent an hour questioning the guy, which I think is a little. I think that it was almost like we're gonna punish you by questioning you in an hour since we don't have really anything we can hold you for.
Right.
It has that feel to it, doesn't it? But anyway,
exactly. Yeah. Well,
I guess that's one of the small risks that you would run by wearing your Google Glass anywhere or whatever device that is your augmented reality. If it has a camera on it, there are some places that are not going to be happy about you bringing a camera in. And
I'm going to hope that this is an early days problem. That we're gonna see a few bumps along the way, and then people are going to get used to people having devices on their person that could be recording devices. Because the bottom line is, there's one guy in a theater wearing Google Glass. What happens when there are literally dozens of people wearing Google Glass all the time, and they're their prescription glasses? As you said, there's something that they need to have on. We're going to tell people they can't wear their glasses into the movie theater. What happens when that technology becomes a contact lens? What happens when that technology becomes something that they can't detect anyway? Are we going to have to go through?
Or can't be removed because, hey, it is surgically implanted
It's
in
yeah,
there.
it's part of my head now. Yeah, yeah, I can't take that part of my head out in order
Yeah.
to enjoy your movie. And really, I mean, are we going to go through a screening process? They're going to wand us when we walk into the movies to make sure we don't have a recording device on. I mean, once again, the fact that it's Homeland Security makes you wonder if that's the direction that's going to head. So that is a little bit worrying, a little bit troubling, and that, if anything, could be the thing that slows down adoption of that kind of technology. If people think, well, if I would like to have the augmented reality interface, but if I put on the device, some cop is going to think I'm a spy, or someone's going to think I'm trying to pirate a movie, or putting the whole "I look like a dork" thing to one side. Say it looks totally cool. It looks like Ray-Bans that you put on. Better than Ray-Bans. You look
Right.
awesome wearing these things. As soon as it's identifiable as that perception is going to be an issue. So I really hope that we don't have this big overbearing thing of various authorities trying to close that down, because in the first place it will never work,
Right.
and it will only slow things down. In the second place, it will slow things down significantly if that occurs, and that would be very unfortunate, because the benefits of augmented reality are tremendous, and they far outweigh those kinds of risks. Bottom line is, there are tiny little video recorders that people could be sneaking into movies anyhow. They don't need to have them
Right.
on the eyeglasses. It's there are a lot of different ways to sneak those into the movies, and
Well, you can have augmented reality without the camera facing forward. A forward-facing camera is not absolutely necessary to the other features of Google Glass. I
right,
think one of the ways that the world may accommodate this technology is if there's just a shade that you can flip down over the camera, and just common courtesy. I'm coming into someone's private home. Click. There's
right.
no way I'm going to get video of someone inside of someone's private home if the thing is covered. And in other places where there'll be a new etiquette that will develop around this stuff. But the capability is much too powerful to us to just not do it because we don't like certain aspects of it. We will the etiquette will develop around how to handle this.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. So this then moves us into a discussion of generally attaching these devices to ourselves. Let's not talk just about. I do want to come back just briefly, because I said I actually take the position that it matters both ways. I think that how the Oculus Rift matters too, because it has to look unintimidating enough that people will put them on in their homes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or it has to look intimidating enough that they will, depending on the gamer and depending on who's putting it on. And the other interesting thing that will occur is pretty soon there will be 3 or 4 players in that space. They'll all be offering different features, but don't think for a moment that it won't be a factor. What the thing looks like will be a factor in how people adopt them, even if they're just wearing them in their house. And in the end, the face hugger look, the heavier, more intimidating look might be the one that people land on, because that looks more immersive. Possibly, it looks more like I'm going to have a real kick-ass gaming experience. Putting this big clunky thing on my head rather than that light thing. How awesome can that be, right? It doesn't look as impressive. I'm not
yeah.
saying it will go down that way, but it could.
I think it's there are some people that I think still prefer the large album.
Right.
And part of the experience is pulling out this big huge thing with this huge picture that on it that advertises the music, and putting it on the stereo. A few people, audiophiles, really like
That's
that.
right.
Just
They like
that's
that
part of the
feel, that
experience.
tactile experience. Absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe gamers might prefer this big conch thing on your head. Maybe that's part of the deal. And if you're a serious gamer, you don't care as long as the experience that it gives you is first rate. So maybe how it looks won't matter so much
We'll
for
see.
that.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. We'll see.
All right. So here's a question. What's important around wearable devices? This article that you suggested, this link that you suggested, the designer of the Fitbit, talking about what's important. Because to me, the question is, what makes a computer so compelling that we want to attach it to our bodies? And here's the designer. The guy's name is Gad Amant. I assume Gadamant. Gad Amant, designer of the Fitbit. Very cool wearable device that lets you track how many miles you've walked in a day, how many flights of stairs you've gone up, how many calories you're eating, how much sleep you got. So it's a total all-in-one fitness tracker that you can wear as a wristwatch. He said this about wearable computers. He says these objects are the most personable, nearly sensual or intimate objects. They pose so many complex questions about your personality and fit to your specific human body. It's a very delicate balance of emotional next to rational thinking, which is a real step away from the conversation we were just having. Okay, and this guy sounds like, I mean, when you start hearing this kind of talk, it sounds like a fashion designer talking. You know, it's
Right.
like a Ralph Lauren or somebody like that. And guys like us, we immediately hear that and go, yeah, you know, okay, whatever, you know, intimate, blah blah blah. I'm going to wear it because it's cool and it does the thing I want. But this is actually what drives consumer decisions in the particularly in the apparel market. And at this point, we are talking about a piece of apparel. And so I think that his analysis is spot on. It's a very intimate, very personal thing because of the function it performs. And people have to be comfortable with it, and they have to feel that it is not only not looking dumb on them, it's not only not making them look bad, but that somehow having it on them is boosting them, right? It's
Yeah.
it's giving their image a little bit of a boost. Now, Stephen, we're
And
both geeks, right? So we don't care as much about that
as much
kind of.
about that sort of thing. That's kind of that's. But I'm going to tell you, it's important. Um, it wouldn't, put it this way: Steve Jobs knew it was important.
Right,
You know, that
right,
was a big part of uh, his push while he was there, and I think it's now part of the DNA of the Apple company is to have stuff that not only works well but looks awesome.
right.
I mean, and even the packaging when you go to open an Apple product, and now many other products. If you notice that you buy a Google product or something comes in from Amazon, like a Kindle or something, it's packaged in such a way that it's like presenting it to you. It's part of the experience. And Fitbit is a good looking product.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it looks good on your wrist,
right.
and I think that's exactly right. You need to it needs to be something that doesn't detract from your appearance, but it enhances your appearance so that you don't feel weird about wearing it. And I think that's part of it. And that sort of tells us maybe part of the direction that products like Google Glass and its competitors will have to go in. It's going to need to look. It's going to need to look sharp, like a Ray-Ban sunglasses. I think you mentioned something like that.
Now,
Uh, yeah,
so you've signed off on Fitbit, sort
yeah,
of. You just gave it a little bit of an endorsement. So let me ask you this:
yeah. It looks good.
when I look at the Fitbit description of the functions it performs, most of them it looks like you could do with a smartphone app.
Yeah, sure.
Some of them, I guess, it's really doing some kind of telemetry, and the fact that it's attached to your body, maybe it's taking your pulse or
Yeah,
some other things like that that a smartphone wouldn't immediately do. Um, in the battle between objects that are attached to your body, because you've chimed in on things specifically on the wrist in the past, in the war between things that are attached to the body versus something you can carry around like a smartphone, which you've already given partial credit as being a wearable. Do you think that things like Fitbit have a future independent of their ability to actually touch the body and do something with the body? That is to say, does a wearable need to really be interacting with your physical body in order for it to be relevant and needed as opposed to a smartphone app?
Short answer, I believe, is yes.
Okay.
And the reason I believe that is because a wearable like a watch the screen is not large enough to really do much interacting with like you would the screen of a smartphone.
Right.
Even a small smartphone is, orders of magnitude larger than a wristwatch, unless it's a really dorky looking wristwatch, which,
Right.
which gets beyond what this guy's talking about, right?
But dorky could become the new cool. So
Well, maybe so, but
yeah.
uh, in order for something like this to be relevant, then it needs to be because it's attached to your body and taking your pulse and things like that. I thought it was very interesting what they talk about here. Fitbit for babies. It's a baby
Yeah.
monitor, and
Right.
it'll go on their ankle. and it's a cute little thing there, and it'll monitor I presume their pulse and things like that. And if
Right.
there's a problem, it'll probably alert your cell phone. And I think that's a great idea. That's just another way of that could be relevant. But yeah, it has to be doing something, alerting you or giving you data about your body that you couldn't have with a cell phone or with Google Glass. And the great thing about something like eyeglasses is that it's in contact with your body at all times. So presumably you could get some body data, but it also fills your world with a screen, right?
Right.
It, and so you and that's a screen presumably you could interact with, especially if the camera is picking up your movements. You could sit there and type, I suppose, or do other things to manipulate what you're seeing in your eyeglasses. So I think that the real wearable in the future is not going to be the wristwatch. It's going to be eyeglass type things like Google Glass. I think that's my prediction.
And not just eyeglasses. Let's talk about this Google Smart Contact. It's awesome, but it doesn't do what you think. And to your point, this is interfacing with your eye. But what's it doing? It says Google announced on Thursday that it wants to start making smart contact lenses embedded with chips and sensors so small they look like bits of glitter, and an antenna thinner than a human hair. But the contact lens won't be Google Glass for your eyeball. It's going to measure the glucose level in tears to give diabetics crucial information without pain. Now, this is truly the intimate connection that our designer was talking about here. This is like real-time information about something that's happening with your body. And to me, when I read something like that, I say, okay, there is the future of the wearable device. And it makes me wonder what happens when these devices have a lot more smarts plugged in them, a lot more capability plugged into them, and it's not only checking your glucose, but it's adjusting it as necessary. And what if it's not just blood sugar levels for diabetics, but it's blood sugar levels for anybody who needs a boost of blood sugar or who needs a boost of caffeine? And you can project from there. You can think about a device that you're wearing on your body that is monitoring your blood pressure, it's monitoring your perspiration, it's monitoring your breathing, and figuring out, anxiety, and giving you some kind of, whether it be herbal or otherwise, relief for that. Taking feedback from your body and giving you a boost of relaxation, maybe even a boost of confidence if the appropriate pharmaceuticals were packed in there.
I would not want to be taken out of that loop. I would want to be part of the decision. Maybe I want to feel stressed out right now. Maybe that would be of benefit to me in the right situation. Don't give me a sedative when I need the fight or flight.
Right. Well, one way you might be in the loop is you set the parameters around when it does that and when it doesn't. And it's like Data, who can switch on and off his emotion chip. We might switch on and off these monitoring devices, but yeah, the big temptation in the end game there is the thing that's measuring your happiness and just pumping more happiness in, no matter what. And then it's everything's great. Oh, lost my job. No, I feel okay.
It's okay.
My wife left. That's no problem. Everything. I'm on an even strain here with this contact lens that I've got in my eye. That's beyond the discussion of wearables, but it talks about where wearables ultimately can take us, which is a complete reimagining of how we experience the physical world, not just in the augmented reality sense where we're getting different information, but a complete change in how our body is reacting to things and the kind of control that we have over it. Very, very interesting set of technologies and very interesting times that lie ahead. And guess what, Stephen? We're out of time.
We're out of time, so I guess it's time to talk about music. Music tonight is Brian Dunn's "Wake Up."
Wake Up by Brian Dunn. All right, thanks, Stephen, for putting that together, and thank you all for being with us. We'll be back again on Wednesday with a new World Transformed, and until next time, live to see it.